Are you a college student? Do you not know how to study? Or do you just not know how to use your new iPad? Well, watch this video and I'll give you some tips and pointers. So if you happen to stumble across my channel, you might see that I'm actually in vet school, but I'm going to be making this video just for anyone out there who maybe wants to know how to study, wants to know how to use the iPad. All of the things I'm about to show you are strictly to me. Everything's different, whether you're in vet school, med school, undergrad, or you're just using this for like your recreational use. I'm just giving a few tips and tactics that I use out there that I thought have been helpful. So stick around. I'm splitting this up into two parts. So if you want to kind of just want to know how to like use the iPad and Notability, please stick around for the first part. If you kind of want to like learn how I study and like those type of tips, stick around for the second part. So I have the Apple 6th generation iPad and it's compatible with the 1st generation Apple Pencil, and it just charges here in the iPad charging port. Some of the newer models charges on the side with the 2nd generation pencil, but they all do the same thing. I use an app called Notability, and I'm gonna just show you like where to find it. It's on the App Store. It's literally just called Notability. It has this blue pencil. I think it's about $8.99 or $9.99. GoodNotes is also very similar, but I'm only familiar with Notability. I have all of my classes organized by term and by subject, and it's very easily accessible. I know where all of my PowerPoints, all of my notes are, and I just know where to find everything. Everything's right here on the iPad. I'm going to show you how to download PowerPoints directly into Notability. I see a lot of people who don't really know how, and they download it to the iPad and then have to import it from the iPad, from the files, and there's an easier way. You can download it directly to Notability. You would get up what you wanted, whether it's a PowerPoint, a Word doc, an image, like anything, because even if you're not in school, you can do this. This is SGU's like student site. You find the PowerPoint and you would share it like you're gonna email it or text it to somebody. You would find the Notability app, choose the folder or subject that you want it to go to, and it directly puts it in Notability. And now it's not in two places on your iPad, it's just directly in the app, and you can just find it, and there it is. It has a number 2 by it because I've already downloaded this. I'm just using this as an example. But so yeah, this is the one that I actually had already. So I'm going to show you just like how it writes. You can use the pencil as a stylus. I write my notes obviously, and you can do a lot with the paper and everything. You can change the color. You can change if you want it to be blank lines or gridded. I like to use the grids just because I do a lot of bullets and it makes it straight. You can change the color, you can change the width, you can highlight everything, and I like to draw the pictures and everything. So yeah, so I think that the iPad pencil like has good like calibration. That's what I get asked a lot. It really mimics your actual handwriting, and you can zoom in so that it's more accurate, as opposed to if you're using like the narrower lines and it's harder. Another cool thing that you can do is like you can do the zoom option. So if you're going to be writing a lot, and once you kind of get to the edge of the screen, it automatically just goes over, and then once you get to the edge of that one, it also keeps going down, so you don't have to keep like zooming in and out. I think that's a cool thing. Like I said, I write all my notes myself. You can add pictures from other documents in. I think that's a really cool thing. So you can have 2 documents up side by side. You would just choose the cut option, whether you do it free, or they have like one that's just already a square, and you can drag it into your notes or whatever you want to use and write and label it. Another thing is if you had already drawn on the image or the diagram, say in a class or a meeting or a seminar, you can still crop this out and take it and put it into the document. So again, I think this is like a really, really cool feature, and it will actually just paste the whole image with the writing on it, and then bam, it's in your notes. And not to say you can't go back to it, but yeah. Anyways, continuing on, you can add dividers and subjects, and so that's how I have the dividers are each semester or term for me, and the subjects are each course, and then within each course there's other things. Another thing I didn't show was that in the notes you can import sticky notes. You can also add pictures. I just don't want it to fill up my whole camera roll. And you can even put GIFs and audio. So if you have recorded something, you can import an audio into the file. And to show you like kind of how I imported pictures, I would study for anatomy lab by taking pictures in anatomy lab, because we were allowed to here at SGU, and then I would label them. Great way to study if you really know what you're talking about. So just continuing on, I think I'm gonna save this to go over in my study little blurb later in this video. But I'm just gonna show you like how you can write on your PowerPoints like too. So you import this PowerPoint and you can write on it. And also you can type, guys. I just like to handwrite. It makes me remember, but you can also text. You can get an external keyboard. But yeah, I write, and you can add anything to these PowerPoints because now it's your document. And like this is like how I write in class. I label things, and yeah, then I study it after with my own things. A good thing is it backs up to Google Drive, it backs up to iCloud, and you can import it as a PDF or a note. And yeah, this is nothing really interesting. That's like my little blurb. I hope this was helpful. Okay, now that I've shown you how to use Notability, I'm going to kind of show you how I personally study. And again, this is not like you have to study this way in vet school, you have to study this way in college. I know I have a lot of followers who are in high school, starting undergrad, and I give advice. This is not how you have to study, it's how I study. I personally like to handwrite my notes. I know like in today's younger generation, everything's on the computer. And so people are so used to typing. But for me, I personally can't retain stuff when I type it. I have plenty of classmates who type out their notes, who make beautiful charts online. And that is a way to go. I have made charts in the past, but it's not my primary source. I'm going to be showing you what I mostly do personally. And again, like one thing I like to tell people is you have to find what works for you. You can't look at somebody and say like, wow, their notes look amazing, they're always making good grades, maybe I need to study like them. Maybe you can take some pointers from them, but like don't just feel obligated to have to conform to how someone else studies, because everyone studies and learns different. Like I'm a very like visual person, and that's why I like to write, and I draw pictures and I add pictures. Some people are more auditory, so I have people who study by listening to the lectures. Again, I could never. And then you have people who are, what's the other one, there's verbal, so like sometimes working in groups. Like I hate group studying, but I don't diss it because there are some people who like really benefit from it. And so if talking to your peers, talking to your significant other, your stuffed animals, like it can help. Like you just have to like, again, learn what works for you. Charts might be a good thing. Writing out multiple choice questions, especially like in vet and med school, especially here at SGU, is because that's how in vet school the NAPLI is, that's how in med school your STEP is and your MCAT is. But even in undergrad, a lot of things are like very multiple choice questions. And even if you're not making necessarily like MCQs, you could also just make little quizzes. Like that helps. And it also really helps when you can explain it to someone else. When you can explain something fully to someone else, you know you got it. So that's just like my little spiel before I show you what I personally do. A lot of people tell me my notes are like great, so I just kind of want to like show like kind of what I do. So as I showed like, you know, on here when I was showing, so like this is like where I would get to my classes and everything like that. So typically like I'm very like on top of my like classes. I like to stay on track. There's some people who get behind like very easily, and I don't diss them, but like for me, like I have a journal. I don't like, I'm very like old school. I like stuff like in person, handwritten in front of me. So I have like everything here. I like red dot off like when I've watched something. So even if I do for some reason fall behind, it's like I know what's behind. And like I have like, okay, this is like midterms week. I have like my whole semester like planned out, like stuff in different colors, color coding. That helps me. Doesn't mean it's gonna help you, but color coding and having like a good functional schedule like is really efficient. So I would look, especially since we're still online right now, I would look to see what I have to do. I would watch my lecture here, and as the lecture is playing, I would take notes in said PowerPoint. And so that's kind of like what I showed you all earlier in this video, is I watched the PowerPoint, you know, as they're going on. So like we're in surgery right now. So like today I did thoracosurgery, and surgery really intimidates me. And so like there's not a lot, because I feel like a lot of like surgery like is like very picture wise, but if there's something like, for instance, like I don't want y'all to think I don't take notes. It's because sometimes like it's so well explained on the page. Like here, you know, I write it out. So then afterwards, and I'm not gonna really show surgery per se. I mean, I guess I could. So like my castration notes are finished. So after I've watched these lectures, I come back and I make notes that look like this, which I feel like are have written, have pictures, so I can see and come back. Some classes are gonna have more pictures than others. Some classes are gonna be more written. For an example that I can show, like a more written class is like pathology last term. Like every system was like long notes. So obviously like pathology, you still do need to know the pictures, but it was like very long. All of these notes came out to like, you know, 10, 11 pages, blah. But there's still pictures in it. Again, like also in like kind of term like 3. I had like clinical pathology. So there was just like a lot of like, you know, understanding blood work. And so it's like less pictures and everything like that, because it's just like kind of understanding. And again, this would be, I know right now SGU is completely online, but this would be even if I were in person, I would go to my lectures and then, you know, I would come home to study, do whatever. I also realize y'all can see me in the reflection, so that's awkward. I'm telling y'all, like, I'm an amateur YouTube person. Like, I try to be real. I don't try to be fake or anything out there. So anyway, so I'm gonna show you like kind of like an example per se of what, like how I would study. I'm trying to like find the best class to show it on. I guess I could kind of do like this livestock neonatal medicine. So typically what I'll do, and this is the one I used earlier in the thing, in this video. So I'm gonna scroll back up to the top and just kind of explain like how I do certain things. So for one, I have a very short attention span when it comes to certain things. So when I draw and add pictures, it just kind of gives myself a mental break from having to like study per se. Like, you know, sometimes I question like, you know, Brittney, is it good that you just spent 30 minutes drawing this goat? Probably not. But, you know, again, like everyone learns different. And so like, I feel like sometimes I can afford that time. Other times I can't. And like, you'll see it in some of my notes. Some are more cute and creative and some are just like straight to the point. So like in here, you know, I have my notes written here. So like dairy animals typically have more dilute colostrum than beef. You know, that's something to consider. So I have, right here, dairy tend to have more dilute colostrum than beef breeds. You know, that's something to consider. Like, why might that be important? You know, did the dairy calf get enough milk? I don't want to copy verbatim. That's something, you know, I've had to work on. But sometimes like a lot of stuff is verbatim, especially when you have PowerPoints like these that already are minimal. I feel that like, you know, it might already be shortened. So if I want to rewrite that to have my own notes, because a lot of times when I'm studying for finals, I study my notes. If it's a concept that I know I was struggling with, I will go back and look at the PowerPoints, but there's a good chance sometimes this is what I'm studying. So I don't want to leave out valuable information. I've just learned in vet school, and I feel like I wish I had known this a while back. You have to just kind of learn like the big topics. Like when you really stop to think, you can kind of realize what a professor can or might ask. And you just have to like learn to like study that, like what is going to matter, like big topic, big term. And so this is an example. There's a mosquito flying. I've been getting bit up by mosquitoes like all day. And so, you know, coming on down, we have like failure of passive transfer. And so again, like I color code a lot. I love color coding. As you can see down here, I have stuff favorited. And that's because like typically, as you can kind of see, I have a color code or a color scheme going. So the blue, the pink, the yellow, and then the green. And that's like, you can see that like across like any of my notes. Like I always like have a color scheme. You can like usually like point it out. So this one's like pink, green, and yellow. And I think if you go on back up, it's blue, yellow, and green. And so that's just like, again, something for me. I like color code. Some people aren't as color coding and fanatic. And so once I've like typed this out and everything, a lot of times like I'll change the paper. I keep the paper on grid while I'm writing, just because it's easier for me to line up the bullet points and make sure it's like a tab over, like if you were typing. But then once I come out, sometimes I'll either just put it back to notebook paper or I'll even take it off. You might be asking like, okay, what about the classes that you have a lot of pictures? Like you said, your third surgery class. Okay, those are classes that when an exam is coming up, I actually study the PowerPoint. For example, like my diagnostic imaging class, which is my least favorite class of this term, I come back and I look at this and like, you'll be surprised. Like I kind of surprise myself when I go through the lab questions. So one of our, so like something, I'm trying to find it. So we have like virtual labs or whatever. And so we get a case, right? We go through it. And so I'll like, you know, use my lecture to like help me out and everything like that. Is this not the one that I have answers on? Because I did it last week. Okay, here it is. So I go through and everything like that. And so what I have here is in pink, I have my guesses. and everything. The yellow is once I went back and looked at the answer key. And the reason I don't erase the pink is because when I'm coming back to study this, I want to know what I got wrong. I want to know, like, what did I think it was? Why was that wrong? Why was that not right? And everything like that. And, or like maybe what did I miss? Like, did I not add enough things? And as you can see, like the pink, my stuff is very low, and I will say it loud and proud. I do not like radiology. I have learned this term. I dislike ultrasound even more. But again, it kind of just helps. As far as reviewing, sometimes, like, honestly, like, I put so much time and effort into making the long notes that, like, that's my primary review. And then once they're complete, I'm just reading. It's like I'm reading a shortened book. You know, I have taken a 300 slide PowerPoint presentation and made it into a 16-page outline. And so that's what I review. And so when a test is coming up, you know, I try to read through that outline at least once a day. And if there's something on the outline I don't remember, or I'm like, oh, how do I remember this? I tell everyone I never have an issue with going to Google. I never have an issue with going to YouTube, because sometimes YouTube and Google can explain it better than your professor can. And it's not to like discredit like my professors or anything, but sometimes like I just don't get it how it's explained. It's the same way that I might, you know, study differently than the next person, but you like how they study better because you just relate to it more. And so I will sometimes look back at the PowerPoints. I will look back at the lecture, but I also will go look on YouTube or something, especially like when we were learning like EKGs and learning the heart, like that was just like not clicking to me. But then like when I go look it up, it makes perfect sense. So that's like my spiel. That's how I study. Definitely, like I put more time and effort. Like I feel like I'm constantly always working on my notes, but like I also am an advocate for taking a break. So like you cannot study all the time. And so like probably once I finish this video, I have some stuff with student government to do, but then the rest of this afternoon, I'm just gonna be off and on studying. Like I go to the gym, I stop to eat, I stop to just get on Zoom with my girlfriend and talk to her for an hour. Like, but you have to kind of know, like there are some of those people that like, they look like they study like 20 out of the 24 hours a day. I am not one of those people, but I recognize that, you know, vet school's a lot, grad school's a lot, undergrad is a lot. And if you want the nice results, you got to put in the work. So I hope this has been helpful. Always feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, whether you, again, stumbled across my page, whether you're interested in being a vet or you just like my energy and want to keep up with me. So be sure to like and subscribe. If you want like more educational videos or stuff about like vet school or like my personal opinions, always leave that in the comments. Like I read all of my comments. And yeah, stay safe, stay happy, and until next time.